All right, so my name is Damayanti Dipayana. I'm a senior strategist for Qubit. I used to work in the UK office for approximately a year and a half, then moved over to the US office to essentially build a client team. I've had the luxury to work with amazing clients over the past 3 years. So, sorry, I'll move out of the way. So Farfetch, Topman, BB, Jimmy Choo, had an amazing experience and learned a lot. So throughout these 3 years, I want to share with you what I've learned and how you can optimize your testing strategies. So I want to talk about 5 steps. One, how do you identify and target customers? How do you define your success criteria, which is one of the most important things? How do you then put that strategy into practice? How you deal with winners and losers, and how you understand test it, do nothing. So just a question to the room. How many of you guys do some form of testing? Good. It's a majority. Great. So that's good. So at least what I'm telling you guys is going to be relevant. So the first thing, how do you identify and target your customers? And one of the things that we focus on with Qubit is making sure that we create a single view of the customer. And this is also why we work off a unique visitor model rather than a session or a visit model. We don't necessarily care about how many visits or how many sessions somebody had and essentially determining how valuable that particular session was. What we want to understand is who comes to your site, how valuable is that customer for your business, and how can we create essentially the best experience for that particular visitor. So there are a couple of things that we look at. We, of course, look at behavioral web data. So where's somebody coming from? What's their purchase history? What are their browsing patterns? Any particular brands that they're interested in? We look at additional customer data that you might have that we don't necessarily own. CRM data that you potentially have. Phone information, demographic data. And then any third-party data that you want to consolidate with the existing data set that we have online. Think about weather information, geolocation, so knowing where somebody's from, for example, Denver, Colorado. And consolidating all these data sets will allow you to identify customer segments that are meaningful. So you can think about life cycle stage. Are you targeting new visitors, existing customers, purchasers, people that used to purchase all the time but haven't been to your site and haven't purchased anything in the past 3 to 6 months? By particular on-site behavior, do we know something based on the referring channel? Is it a different customer when she comes in via an affiliate or via a particular paid search campaign? Purchase history is something that is really, really valuable and really useful, because especially when it comes to certain products, you want to understand how somebody moves through that purchase cycle. What is the first product that he or she is likely to buy? And what is potentially the 5th product that he or she is likely to buy? Or is there just a certain preference that you know, and therefore you can tailor the site based on that information? And then finally, by demographics. Again, those are usually third-party data sets that you can ingest or that you can consolidate your web behavior or your web information on. So think about CRM segments. Think about your loyalty or reward program. So once you've defined the people that you actually want to target, that you want to talk to, that you want to create an experience for, you need to define success. So what do you need to get out of it? And I think one of the most important things is that you scope your campaign properly. And this is relating to what Raf just spoke about, whereby, people get, and especially our clients, they get so excited. They have a new tool. They can do all these things, and they just want to roll it out. But it's really important that you craft a valid test hypothesis. What are you testing? What are you aiming to get out of what you're doing? And a test hypothesis or a hypothesis is actually a statement. A lot of people have it as a question, but actually it's a statement. It is, if I show, say for example, if I show users that come in via Canada a message on my basket page about Canadian shipping policy, that will increase conversion rate. That's what you're going to test. Second thing, consider your brand. There's a lot of information out there in the industry whereby these big light boxes and this increases the conversion rate by 25%. Green is the color for call to actions. But I think it's also really important to consider what your brand is about and making sure that whatever you're executing on the page is something that everybody feels comfortable about, also the designers. Iterate. This is something that I'm specifically going to focus on today as well, is how do you iterate and how do you continuously optimize rather than doing one thing, trying to make it absolutely perfect, focusing on it for 2-3 months because you have 25 feedback cycles with 6 different departments in your company, is that worth it? Is there a balance between value and complexity? And then determining long-term solutions. Again, it's really important that if you execute something on your side that is in line with your long-term vision, you shouldn't do anything that's just focused on short-term, want to get it out right now, just to drive some additional revenue. And then secondary, is it a test? It's perfectly valid if you don't need to test certain things. Sometimes it's a campaign, it needs to be there for 100% of your customers. It is a business requirement. It is, I don't know, defined by the board. It doesn't matter, but it is also important that you understand, is this a test? Is this something that I need to know and I need to understand what the performance is? Do I need to present it internally? If so, who do I need to present it to? What kind of success metrics are really important for this? And then, is there integrity in your analysis? It's really easy to, I guess, when something, and I'm going to speak about this also later on, it's really easy when you allocate a lot of resources, you're really excited about something, and then there's not the outcome that you initially anticipated. And then you do a lot of post-segmentation, and you try to find a data point, and then you finally found something. But by doing that continuous post-segmentation and trying to pinpoint certain things, you actually lose a lot of integrity of your analysis. So there are 4 things that you need to think about when you look at the results of your test. You need to define your primary success metric. Rather than saying, okay, I have 25 goals. This test is 25 goals. What are you going to base your decision on? What if 10 of those goals are successful, 15 are unsuccessful? Is this something you're going to implement? Is this something that you're going to run 95/5? So first off, define your primary success metric. What is the metric that you are going to base your decision on? Ask.
What's your go-to metric?
Defense. So I'd say it depends on the traffic, and I'm going to speak about this a little bit. But if you have loads of traffic, I work with clients, say, for example, Topshop or BB. They have, I don't know, 10 million unique visitors a month. It's easy to get significance for a test like this, so you don't have to use proxies. So if you have that luxury, you'd usually go for conversion rate or revenue. If you don't have that luxury, you use a proxy that will still allow you to give some visibility on revenue conversion rate. And usually that is the metric that I would focus on because it's the most important. At the end of the day, you want to drive value for your business. However, there are also certain things that are valuable for your brand. So a particular campaign, exposure to content, if you want to relaunch your brand, whatever that may be, there are certain additional metrics that are valuable, but I think it is on a test-to-test basis. So second one, calculate your sample size. Rather than running a test and saying like, okay, cool, we'll just wait and see if there's potentially some significance there. First off, define, okay, this is my segment that I'm exposing this test to. That means that these are the amount of people that are going to see this test. How long will I need to run this test before I see a significant uplift of, say, 2% in conversion rate? So you already have an idea of this needs to run for 2 weeks, this needs to run for 4 weeks. And then stick to that number, stick to that actual timeline. Statistical power and significance. It's important that with every result that you get, that there's significance associated with it. What is the probability of this actually being true, this forecast? Because that's what testing is. Testing is you look at what's happening, what you are observing, and based on that observance, you forecast what's going to happen. If what you observe is based on a very limited sample size, it is not that sensible to forecast the performance going forward or in the future. And then regression to the mean, that's a concept that's very well known within statistics, and that's often, especially initially when there's a lot of volatility, you can have a positive impact, you can have a negative impact, but often, especially when it's considering a false positive or something that actually doesn't have an impact, that your effect regresses to the mean. So it actually, dies down a little bit. So I think those are 4 concepts that are really important to understand before you launch a test. And then, are your efforts scalable? I guess when it comes to process, efficiency is probably one of the most important things, because rather than just thinking about cost and revenue, resources are also very, very costly, and specifically when you work with a third-party vendor, such as Qubit. So you want to make sure that with the resources that are available to you, you have the biggest output. So making sure that you reuse certain things, that you streamline the process, that you talk about what is the process, how can we standardize it, how many feedback cycles are we going to have? Are we going to focus on the concept, or are we going to continuously iterate? Yes?
Maybe not everyone here knows the Arcadia House of Brand. So what would be an example of a test that was scaled or tested on one site and then rolled out across?
Yes. So, for example, Simon Pritchard, he is e-commerce director of Arcadia, which is a group of really big brands within Europe and the United Kingdom. So you have Topshop, Topman, BHS, Dorothy Perkins, and they all serve as a different demographic, but they're also demographics that are fairly similar. So sometimes we did a test on Topshop. One of the tests was actually changing everything into a mini bag, whereby specifically on mobile, that had a significant positive impact on Topshop. So we rolled it out to all the brands that had a very similar demographic as Topshop and still monitored what the performance were rather than just testing it 50-50. And then target other segments. If you know that something's working for one particular segment, potentially you want to understand, does it also have the same effect on an additional segment? So once you've essentially know who you're going to target, you have your segmentation, you understand who you want to talk to, you've defined and you've scoped out your campaigns properly, you know what your success metrics are going to be, then I guess the next step is to put it into practice. So we are at Qubit, we focus usually on frameworks, and that can be a framework around personas, it can be, in this particular example, framework around the purchase lifecycle. So often, I'm interested to know, because we look at acquire, so acquiring new customers, engaging customers that potentially are fairly new, converting customers, so they're highly engaged and they're now at the stage that you can actually convert them, and retaining, and that's all around your customers that are loyal already and you want to make sure that they purchase again and again. So of everybody, I know that most of you guys are doing some form of online testing. Who focuses on acquisition mainly? Nobody focuses on acquisition? All right. Engagement. Conversion? So the majority focuses on conversion. Retention, so VIP strategies, loyalty, CRM. All right. This is usually what we'll see, is that often, actually I'm surprised by acquisition. Usually a lot of people will say, yes, focus on acquisition. It's all about generating more email campaigns. But yeah, most of the time you see acquisition and conversion are probably like the biggest areas of focus when it comes to testing strategies. And at Qubit, we really want to make sure that this is also aligned with where we are at when it comes to the engagement with the company. So specifically in the beginning, we'll focus a lot more on engagement and on the acquisition. And then further down the line, once we have generated a lot more data and information, you can really start creating amazing campaigns around your retention. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of examples that we have done in the past. So acquisition, this is a particular example for Calypso St. Barth. What it really is about, the personalization, is about changing and adjusting the user experience based on what referring channel they come in. This is really their first touch point, potentially with your site. So what do you know already by this referring channel? In this example, they did a specific email campaign, and based on that email campaign, we actually aligned that experience to the site. So making sure that that user journey is consistent. You'll focus on a couple of success metrics. It can be conversion rate, it can be email acquisition, but also, I guess, one of the most important things specifically for Calypso is that you have a seamless customer experience. Engagement. Journal is a luxury, I guess, lingerie brand. They're New York based, and they really care about user experience, but also sizing. I know for the women here, sizing when it comes to lingerie is really difficult. It's so tough, and especially when it's like high end, it's very intricate. So making sure that we prompt users if they have seen, say for a product page, they've selected the quantity, but it's out of stock. What we want to do is we want to prompt them to search for their size and create a filter that will only show them the products that are actually in their size, so they don't get disappointed every single time when they look at a product that is out of stock. Again, this is really around like conversion. You can use proxy as well. So say, for example, add to basket, because if you know that she has added that actual item to their basket, it already is a positive reinforcement of showing her the relevant items. But also really just improving user experience. And when it comes to engagement tests, you might want to track whether the interaction with key elements on your site increases. Conversion is mainly all about heuristics. It's also aligning certain preferences to the actual customer. But I think it's around showing relevant content based on heuristics and the principles of persuasion. You can think about urgency, think about scarcity. You could think about social proof, knowing that, I don't know, like 20 of my Facebook friends have selected or bought or liked the same item, does give me an additional reinforcement. Okay, this is also relevant for me. So this is an example for Be Glowing. They're a cosmetics company, so they have around 200 different brands that they personally curate. And they also have free shipping, but only when you spend over $75. So what they do is in their basket, they align the actual products that we're going to upsell them in their basket based on previous user behavior, what's in their basket, but also how far I am away from that actual threshold. So if I'm $20 away from that threshold, I potentially only want to show lip gloss, maybe some nail polish. If I'm like $40 away, I might present, for example, day cream, particular cosmetics. And then the final one is retention. And retention is something that, again, sometimes overlooked, but it can, if we've done a lot of talks and research around this, but really if you increase the retention rate of just 5%, it can massively impact profitability for your business. But also in addition to this is knowing that a very, very small proportion of your site traffic actually generates the majority of revenue. You have to understand that retention should be a really big initiative for any business, really. So with Topshop, what we've done is giving loyal customers a special treatment without them having to do anything for it, without them asking for it. But really, if we know that somebody has a certain lifetime value, so say over $80 or $150, they've purchased 3 times, we just show them a little message. Don't forget that you've got VIP express delivery just because you're special. And that message will be throughout their user journey, so on the basket, the product page. And the only thing that they have to do, because they're in the segment of our test, is select express delivery and they won't get charged. In terms of results, I guess focusing on user experience, of course, you create that brand loyalty. There's a sense of reciprocity there. Increasing average order value, lifetime value, and increasing the frequency of visits or the frequency of purchases. Right. So what do you do with tests that win? How many of you guys have had a winning test? Significantly. Right. It's a lot. So what do you guys usually do? Who exposes it to all users? So who has a platform that allows them to just roll it out to 100% or a CMS system? All right. Who hard codes the change? Okay. Who just high fives and moves on? So I want to talk a little bit about something that we've done with Topshop, because most of the time you have people that say, you know what, winning test, exciting, present it back to the management team. This is the revenue associated with it. They hard code it, and then that's pretty much it. Topshop actually, we launched a test, and we want to understand what is the impact if we restore the category pages, because Topshop has so many pages. So what happens if we restore the category pages based on particular attributes? So is it based on price? Is that beneficial? Is it based on ratings? So the highest rated items are at the top, and then the lowest rated items are at the bottom. Now, this was a significant test. We had 3 million people in the test, like super significant, 100% of visitors. But we want to run it on 95.5. What that means is 95% of people will be exposed to the change, but so you leverage essentially the beneficial or the benefit, but you also keep a 5% control group to determine over time whether this performance remains the same. And over time, that uplift started to decrease, and we're checking it out, talking about it. I'm not sure what's going on. And then at some stage, 3 months after we rolled it out, it had a significant downlift. So it was actually driving down sales significantly. So we did the whole post analysis, why this was. And what we understood is that Topshop actually is a fast fashion brand. And when it comes to the items that have the highest ratings, those are items that are basic. They're like your tank tops, your jeans, but all the things that actually that are seasonal, like the dresses, like the cool skirts, like the boots, etc. They don't acquire that many ratings, and therefore they don't acquire very high rated values. So without not having had that 5% control group, there's no way that we would have known that this was actually the actual long time impact. So therefore, when it comes to winning test, it is really important that you intelligently allocate traffic. So you can run it for 100% of visitors. And that's a little bit around if it's user experience based and if you do a site redesign and this site redesign is completely in line with where you want your brand to go, it's fine. Hard code it, leverage your design resource, leverage your development resources. But if it's an actual personalization, our recommendation would always be keep a 5% control group, just because you don't know what changes in terms of demographic, seasonality, and also, just overall site performance. So what about losing test? Who had a losing test? Where was a test that significantly decreased your conversion rate? So what do? Do you forget about it? Move on? Who forgets about it and moves on? No one? Who pretends it didn't happen? Who cries? No? All right. So what often happens with our clients is that nobody talks about it. It's like, oh, okay, that happened. Moving on. Okay, let's talk about all the winning tests. Look, winning tests. But actually, losing tests are so important. I'm not saying that they're more valuable than winning tests, but almost. So what should you do? I want to talk about the value of a losing test. It's a plus. Like, you tested it. You didn't hard code it. That's a win by itself already. The fact that you thought, okay, I'm going to make a change to my site, but instead of just hard coding it, going to my dev team, allocating resources, you test it. And, that doesn't drain any conversion to your website. It's really important that you understand why. So rather than pretending it didn't happen, look at it. Talk about it within the business, because sometimes the merchandising team might know why, or your customer service team might know why. And just talk about it. What are potential hypotheses? If you have a hypothesis, and if you can think of assumptions as to why this has happened, retest it. Maybe, for example, another test that I've done with Calypso, which is similar to the Be Glowing one, which makes it really interesting. So we wanted to test. They have actually free shipping over $250 on their basket. So similarly, without an upsell, we just said spend X more to get free shipping. That had a significant negative impact in conversion rate. And everybody was flabbergasted. We were just sitting around the table like, I don't know why. So we did post analysis and we're like, okay, it seems that it's indicatively, it shows us that actually low value customers don't like that. So what do? We retest it and we only show it to people that have a very low basket value. And lo and behold, the impact was actually much more negative versus showing it to people that already had a very high basket value. So try to understand why this has happened and use those insights to inform future testing. So now I know with Calypso that there's a really clear divide between the value of a customer. You have customers that will only focus on sales, and you have customers that have a predicted average order value of $750. Having that insight and knowing that and aligning my testing strategy based on those two groups is really beneficial. So how many have had a test that done nothing? So you test it, you have enough sample size, and it's like, meh, there's no impact on no success metric. All right. And this is something that now our clients are more and more passionate about, is you can't fail at testing. It's all about being transparent and communicated within the business. But really, your hypothesis, which you set, if you scope your campaign, your hypothesis either gets proven or disproven. That's it. You learn something. And make sure, rather than just saying, okay, we haven't learned anything, there hasn't been an impact, try to understand why this is the case. And even if nothing happens, you now know that this actually isn't that impactful. So just to recap what I believe, or what we believe, is the optimal approach to testing. For winners, If you don't need to hard code it, try to retain a small control group for long-term validation. For losers, embrace them, communicate them, talk about it. Don't shy away from them. And be really thankful that you have tested it, that you haven't hard-coded it. And try to use those insights moving forward. And if there's no change, try to dig a little bit deeper again. Similar to like losing tests, dig a little deeper and get a better understanding as to why this potentially haven't impacted. It might be just based on execution rather than your hypothesis. So that is it for me. If you have any questions, I think we're going to do a Q&A now. But yeah, if you have any questions now, let me know.